Okay, are you able to see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, so just to make a quick introduction, our host for today is Bashir Ahmed Zishan. He has presented live webinars in the past as well. He is an excellent presenter. Thank you, Bashir, for accepting another round of these sessions. This is actually the second session in the Huawei Cloud Deep Dive series. Um, and today we will focus more on the Huawei Cloud Networking Services. At the end of this presentation, I would also like us to discuss a bit about the Elite User Program that Bashir is also a part of. Um, I would like you to share a bit about your experience as an Elite user, but that after the presentation, of course. So now I will let you start. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alina. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night to someone. So first of all, I would like to welcome you all for joining this session, and definitely it's been a great pleasure for me to share my knowledge with all of you, my Huawei fellows, my community fellows, and all of the people who have just joined. So as Ms. Alina has already told, this is the second part of our deep dive series that is 360-degree cloud networking. First one was about ECS, that is Elastic Cloud Server of Huawei, and then we will be having a third part, which will be for enterprise customers. So here is a little roadmap for our session, what we are going to have during the session. Definitely, we will be having a thorough detail on networking of the cloud and how it works, what are the parameters, what are the constructs available, and then we will do some lab on Huawei Cloud just to show you the hands-on practices. And then we will have a Q&A session. You can always write a question if you have in chat box. And then we have a reward for you for some quiz and question answers. So the link can be shared later. Then you can answer the questions which we will be sharing to you. So after going through the roadmap, and most of them of you already know me, so it's here is a quick introduction about myself. You can follow me on forum and on other social media platform as well. So after these are basically four major milestone which we will be covering today. As I told you earlier that we will be focusing on the networking of the cloud. Either it is in the cloud or within the cloud or to the cloud. You can say we will covering all 360-degree of networking of the cloud. Then we will see what are the network constructs, what are the parts that are involved in these networking operations. And after that, we will be having a hands-on lab on Huawei Cloud. Definitely, you can follow the process. You can do later on as well. And then it's coupled with a quiz and a Q&A session. So this is a four major building block which we'll be focusing on. So let's move. We will be doing a very quick introduction. What is cloud? What is multi-cloud? And then we'll go to the our main part. Meanwhile, if someone has not joined the first part, so he would have the link available uh, in our post, and then he can see the recording as well of the first part. So they can have a quick introduction of what was done in the first part. So back to the topic. Started with the cloud computing. We know cloud computing is you can say if collective resource pooling mechanism, and we have public, private, and hybrid cloud, which is a combination of public and private, and then a community cloud for an NGO for the some organization. And definitely we are focusing on Huawei part. So let's move further. So as I told you, the hybrid is one which is a combination of public cloud and the private cloud. The cloud which is available for the public and for the private, for means for the group of people, for a company, for an organization. But when we go to the two different vendors, for example, I'm serving my company with Huawei Cloud and with ABC other cloud, A vendor cloud, G vendor cloud, then I could be called as a multi-cloud customer. So definitely the networking is very much involved in hybrid cloud because we need to connect the on-premises data center and the cloud as well. And in multi-cloud, definitely you need to have a communication between the two different vendors and two different offices, or you can say the branch office and the head office. So this is the what we will be focusing mostly, like all the networking which is somehow related with the cloud, either it is within the cloud or to the cloud. For example, you are working for a cloud provider and you need an interconnect between your data center and the cloud provider. The communication involved, what is the mechanism for VPN, what is a mechanism for SD-WAN when we connect the SD-WAN setup to our cloud provider and to the branch office. And then definitely there is hell of bunch of configuration in within the cloud, how they are connecting with each other, why we have different VPCs, what are VPC, we will be focusing what is that, and how VPCs are doing communication intra and inter both. So this was just a brief idea. If we uh, just give a close view on that, the last figure which was shown as a cloud. So a cloud could have multiple connections. You know, we have a one connection with our private data center. We could have one connection with our partner or third party operator. We can have a connection with internet. We have some communication with within the cloud. You can say VPC is just like cloud. We'll be discussing what is that. So and what are the parameter which will be helping us to understand that use for the networking, like VPC, NAT gateway, VPC peering, VPN gateway, direct connect, cloud connect, and some other features are. So let's move what are these and how they are going to work together to make a networking. Again, the same figure, but now we'll start one by one. We'll start with a VPC because this is a main part, which is a fundamental part of any cloud provider or any cloud operations. So let's focus what is VPC. First of all, VPC is basically, you can say, logical isolation. For example, I am using my cloud services for my company or my organization, and I want to divide into different uh, departments, different organization, or different subdivisions. So I'll create a VPC with the name of finance, one VPC with the name of IT, and could be in development, or you can say QA, or you can say production. And then I'll develop resources in that VPC. And VPC contain any type of resource. Either it could be a server, it could be a ECS, it could be a elastic load balancer, whatever it comes in your mind can be bound with an EPC. EPC, you can say, a logical demarcation in your cloud. So in your whole availability of cloud, you have divided into two parts, like VPC1 and VPC2. VPC1 is mostly focusing your testing environment and your non-production environment, while the VPC2 is mostly related with the production environment. So all the resources which is used for the testing purposes will be built on VPC1, and the after testing, what goes to the production environment, that will be in the VPC2. So that is the one good thing about VPC. It's a logical demarcation first of all, and then it helps you to simplify your network. It adds security layer, like for example, if we are from the networking background, what VLAN does in the switch, it divides the broadcast domain in your switch or in your network. So the VLAN 1 user cannot communicate with the VLAN 2 user, with some exceptions definitely. So VPC one VPC user can communicate with each other, but they cannot communicate with the VPC2. But what if you want, like someone has asked me, okay, then if I want to communicate that VPC1 user should communicate with VPC2. So there are some mechanism. That is the motive of today's session as well. We will learn how to communicate VPC1 with the VPC2, VPC with another VPC, VPC with some other companies, VPC communication with your data center, with your third party operator, or with your vendor or your customer. So all that communication mechanism will be learned today. So in VPC we have multiple part. Like in VPC we must have a subnet, or you can say an IP, because in VPC we'll divide our cloud resources, and then we need to allocate IPs. So we can have you can different subnets. There is a theoretical limit for 100, but we can increase as well. So a subnet is, you can say, the IP range. We all know that all IPs in the world is public IP except these three pools. Fine. So we can assign these three pool as per our use. They are free, they are private, they are easy to use, but definitely they are not routable to internet. And now the question comes in my mind, and the same question can be in your mind as well. Like, if I want to go to the internet, then what we will do? So then we will use the public IP, which is known as elastic IP in Huawei Cloud. And you lease one IP that is reachable to internet, and then you bind all your IPs, your private IP, to that single or a bunch of IPs to the internet, and they can easily roam around to the internet. That is one mechanism we have just discussed. That is called letting mechanism. And then we have a bunch of IPs. Then we need to have a record of these IPs. How these records are being maintained? Definitely a routing table does this job. Same like networking world, in the cloud we have a route table. We need to define, like, for example, this is my machine 1, and it needs to go to the location A, and so what path it should follow. So we have some entries in the routing table. Some are default, some needs to be done manually. So we will put some route when we will doing the hands-on lab. So, and then what comes? The security part. If I want to communicate users of VPC1 to VPC2, but I don't want every user should communicate. Some should communicate, some should not communicate. Let's give a common life example. For example, I say this is a room, anybody can enter their room if they have the valid card of that company. So that check and mechanism will be checked by the security team or some automatic operations. So in the cloud, we use security group, we use NACL, that is called network access layers. Security group is used to controlling that in and out of information from the VPC, or you can say, or to the subnet. But NACL is applied on the whole network. So if I will, it's like same like ACL. Like in ACL, in the network we provide ACL, and then we allow and we deny some IP, some pools. So it helps us to control our activity. So these are 3 or 4 parameters which should be considered when you are designing VPC. Definitely we will see these all these parameters when we'll be doing the hands-on. So what are the some use cases for if I say for VPC? So if I give you 3 or 4 basic examples, there are so many other examples for using VPC, definitely. But hybrid cloud is a one basic example. As I said, in a hybrid cloud, you have to connect your data center with the public cloud service provider. Your private cloud is to be connected with your public cloud. So the hybrid cloud is the best example to use the VPC and the multi-tier web application. Like when you have a website or a web application which has a multi-tier, one is front end, one is a back end, and then a database end, and then some other processing end. So all these connectivities are being managed by the VPC. So there are different examples you can follow. You can write in a chat box if you know some of them, then we can discuss as well. There are DR, disaster recovery side, is the one example that comes to my mind. So VPC is the most important, or you can say the most fundamental resource which we are building. Whenever you start building a resource on the cloud, you need to have a VPC first. If you will not make a VPC, then there is a by default VPC, that is the name is default VPC. So all the working is being done on the default VPC. But in our case, we will make one more VPC, like VPC2, and then we will try to communicate between VPC default and the VPC2, and then VPC3, and then continue further. So as in the starting slide, I show you that how the communication with the VPCs are being made, like VPC to the internet. This is the first example. VPC to your data center, communication between the within the VPC, or VPC to some other VPC. For example, in my company, I have 2 VPC. One is prod and one is development. So I need to communicate between these two, or VPC from some other account or some other company or some other my different sister company. So all these communication will be involved, and we'll see which part is used where and how these work together. So as I told you about the IP, that private IP is used, we can use easily. They are free, they are easy to move. But on the other hand, if you want to go to internet, you need some public IP. So and that IP should not be changing every time. So we use one resource that is called elastic IP. In short, we call it EIP, and that EIP has to serve a static public IP for your resources. The resources could be your net server, your ECS, your DNS, whatever, but your IP should remain same. So they are flexible, they are unique, so anybody can use it. So Elastic IP and VPC are well defined, and now you understand what are these constructs. And now we'll start building all the blocks one by one. We have one VPC, then we have one EIP Elastic IP to go to the internet. Now my VPC is accessible to internet. And one good feature of Huawei Cloud is if you apply Elastic IP, then by default it gives you the availability to the internet. But on some other vendors, like in a vendor or some other vendor, they when you apply Elastic IP or the public IP, you are not able to go to the internet unless you will make some other changes like internet gateway and everything. So these processes are automatically done by the Huawei Cloud. So that is one more good advantage for the Huawei users. Okay, now the another mechanism to go to the internet. For example, we have Elastic IP and we go to the internet. We use Elastic IP on our load balancing balancer or over or machine or maybe on a server, and they are good to the internet. But the other case is that we have bunch of servers. We cannot give Elastic IP to each and every server. For example, I have 400 servers available and 500 bare metal servers and some VMs. So I have like thousands of machines available, resources available. So it's not possible. It would be a costly solution to give Elastic IP to every resource. So in normal scenario, like we do the same process for the whole office LAN or full environment, we use a netting. Like in your home, you have a modem which have one single IP available, and all the resources, all the users are connected either on a mobile, on the cell phone, on the iPad. They are using on the private IP, and then there's a conversion going on the modem, and the modem is responsible to take your whole traffic to the internet. Same story can be applied over here. All your resources on the cloud, you can see there are a VPC with some resources, and all these resources are bound with a net server, net gateway, and net gateway is responsible to go to the internet for the source netting and for the destination. Source means forward on the forward path and the reverse path. So definitely a net gateway should have one Elastic IP because the translation mechanism is being done by net gateway, but he needs the public IP as well, for which we use Elastic IP as we have learned in the last slide. So after going through this the quick demarcation of public and private internet, private gateway, net gateway. The public net gateway is responsible to share Elastic IP for internet access and keep your cost very low. Your whole servers are you can say they are safe. They will not be using Elastic IP. All the private IPs are bounded on that Elastic IP, and then you can go. On the other hand, the private netgate does the same translation, but for the private IPs. For example, your VPC or your on-premises data center needs to connect with some other VPC. So whole IPs are translated into other IP, and then it goes to the you can say on-premises VP data center or the other VPC. So the processes are same, but for the different scenario. Now let me get back to you this slide again, this one. Now we know the VPC, how they are communicating within the VPC. Now I want my VPC should communicate with some other VPC. For example, if I go to that slide again, yeah. So I want my VPC to communicate with this VPC, which is definitely the VPC of my company, but in different for different department or different use case. And I want to communicate these two VPCs. So we need to have a peering. Like in normal life, we make some peer to establish the connectivity. If you take an example of any routing protocol, they make a peer and then they started sharing data. The same concept goes to the VPC peering. In VPC peering, what we do, first of all, we will create a logical link between VPC1, VPC2, or VPC-A, VPC, whatever you call it, and then we'll start sending data. But that these requirement for sending data needs what the configuration and the routing as well. Because, for example, I have a bunch of servers or different subnets are available in my VPC1. So I will put route static route for from here to VPC2 and the vice versa. But this VPC peering is to just make a communication. But one very important thing needs to be emphasized over VPC peering is that this VPC, all the VPCs which we want to communicate should be in the same region. We'll discuss what are the region. For right now, you can understand regions are different geographical locations for any providers. For example, Huawei has multiple regions available, like you can say China region. China has multiple regions available in Latin North America, in Africa, and each region have distinct, unique data center that is called AZs, availability zones. So, like for example, China, one region has four data centers, four availability zone. Like North America has a region which has two or three data centers. So it depends upon the availability. We'll see the figure for your understanding. But now what I want to communicate is from my on-premises data center, or you can say my private cloud. But definitely my private cloud is in my premises and the public cloud is maybe in China region, in Shenzhen, or maybe in North America, or maybe in South Africa. It's not possible to have a lease line from my office to that office, or maybe it's very costly. Why don't we use an internet? Because internet is available at the both location. But for security, we will be using some protocol. The same concept we will be using in our normal life. We use VPN and we make some IPsec tunnels. So same concept we use in the cloud as well. How we make a VPN tunnel or the IPsec tunnel between my data center and the cloud. For example, my premises in Dubai, and I'm using, for example, Singapore data center. So the my VPC in the Singapore is connected over the internet with my Dubai office, but they are encrypted with IPsec tunnel, so the security is there. Privacy has to be maintained, and the communication is not very costly because we are using internet, that is public shared mechanism. But for enhancing security and reliability, we use the secure IPsec tunnel. So this is the one good example for the VPN, virtual private network. And now if I ask you what are the use cases, there are thousands of use cases. It could be your data center, your DR side, your any customer, or if you are working for the financial sector, then definitely the privacy and the security is a major concern. So you can connect with the different branches, although they are your different offices, but you need to make your network secure and your financial data not to be lost due to security issues. So you will be using the VPN. Okay, now come the other part. This is you can say we want to connect my data center to my VPC. Now you can ask why don't we use VPN? It's easy. It's readily available. But at certain points, when like as I give you example of one financial sector or some strategic location, you just built a direct connection with your cloud service provider. Definitely, it's not humanly possible to make a direct connection with, for example, if we are talking about Huawei to Shenzhen. So they provide you some POP location, some intermediate location. You you drop the fiber or the lease line to that location, and that location, that POP is already connected with the data center of that provider. If I take example of Huawei, so Huawei has multiple POPs available, so you can connect. So direct connection has definitely has some good benefit. Cost is involved, but your supremacy, your privacy has ensured, and definitely the bandwidth is higher. On VPN, bandwidth is somehow limited, and which was it was using the public internet, so latency has a factor. But on a direct connect, you will be connecting to the data center as if you are connected directly, so the latency is very very minimum. So all the solutions which are latency hungry should go to the direct connect. And other good thing about direct connect is that you can build secure, although they are private lines, but and even if you want more security, you can build some VPN tunnels over it as well, just to save it some more more benefit, or you can say more security. Okay, so the other one connection is a cloud connect. Now we have connect with our data center, we have connect with our uh, providers, we are connected with our customers, we are connecting with different VPCs, we are different connecting with our VPC in other region as well. But what if they want to communicate with each other? For example, if you see this figure, this VPC is connected with its at headquarter using direct connect, and the same is same with this VPC. But what if we want to communicate this headquarter to this VPC or the branch outside China or any subsidiary in China? So we need something that is called Cloud Connect. Cloud Connect is basically, you can say, they are it's a service which is used to connect different VPC across different regions. Previously, we were communicating between the between the regions, and then they are connected using the VPC peer. Okay, so again, this slide shows you that how this is how different regions are there. You know, we have different availability in South America. One is North America, some in Europe, in Africa, and there are massive availability in China region, or Singapore, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Shanghai, and Dalan. Uh, in Asia and Australia has to serve later. But right now, these constructs are very well defined, and how these constructs are being used and how they are. um okay, there is one question: if two VPC have a same subnet, can I create a direct connect? No, direct connect is slightly different. As I told you, it is used for the connecting your on-premises to the your VPC. And if I have understood your question very well, that if there are two VPC, they are having a same IPs, how to communicate? Definitely, they will not be communicating because the IP could be overlapping issue. So we make one more EPC that is called transit VPC. So basically, this VPC is working as a bridge between VPC-A and VPC2. VPC-A, for example, using 10.0.0.0, and same IP is being used over here. So the third VPC in between, it's translating this data to some dummy IP and then doing the reverse operation over here. So the communication can be possible. It's something like if we relate with a switching word like Q and Q operation. One VLAN is mapped on the other VLAN, and then you can do the reverse operation on the other end, just to make both customer happy. So thank you, very good question. Okay, so back to the regions. So if you see, there are some regions, some are yet to build, and some are already available. For example, if I say Singapore, Singapore is a region. It has multiple data center. It's mean this they might have two or three different locations. That is called AZ, availability zone. Fine. So just a minute. Okay, so uh, now if I want to ask you that we have learned different network construct, and I would request everyone to take a snapshot of this slide, and then write in a chat box, could be to all or could be to me, like what should be the one. For example, I'll read the second one: balance inbound and outbound traffic to the application for better performance. It's a load balancer. The first one is: use an isolated and highly secure cloud location to connect your elastic compute services, that we called VMs, or you can say that is used to connect your VMs and applications. Definitely VPC does this job. So you can say one is VPC, two is elastic load balance, and what is third and fourth and fifth and seventh. You can write on a chat box just to the revision of what have you learned. So you can take this a snapshot and you can send a message to me. So we'll have a quick short. It's not a quiz. It's just for your revision. Okay. Now, if I back again, I'll show you one link. You can share your input on that link as well. Meanwhile, I'll opening my hands-on lab session. Okay, sorry, I got muted. Okay, so now I started getting some answers. So okay, fine. So now we can see how these constructs are working together. What are the steps we will be following? So if you have available with you with the Huawei account, you can open it. Otherwise, you can just follow me to and you can see the steps over there. Okay, let's start with. Okay, this is the console panel. We can log in. Fine. Let me log in over there. Okay, so this is the you can say main page of Huawei Cloud, and definitely we need to do some. There's one two question from thank you even. Okay, so many, how many subnet we can create? So Asad Saab has given the right answer, but definitely we can add these value as well. If we open some ticket and we can define like we have requirement and we need to do more. And how many VPC we can, by default you can do 5. You can see these options available in your console in a quotas. So but again you can add these detail as well. And then we have one more question: how many VPCs are created? Like done. Okay, can different VPC have a similar IP addressing, or all they need to have a different? If you are developing a network, definitely you will not do the same thing. Like you will not define same IPs to a one VLAN network or same VPC. But definitely if you are working with a customer, you don't need what IP mechanism and IP addressing they are using. So there are some tricks, like one which I just mentioned earlier, like if one customer is using the same pool like 10.0.0 and the customer 2 is using the same pool, so we need to make one transit VPC to communicate between these two, or we might be doing some NATing or something. So these are some parameter. Can subnet communicate with each other? Yes, definitely. If the subnet is in the same VPC, they can easily communicate because they are on the same routing table. I'll show you that default route available. But my question, like your question could be asked like subnet of one VPC can communicate with subnet of second VPC. That is what we are building. That we will build VPC peering or maybe VPN or something. Fine. Okay, one more good question is what is the difference between VPN and the DC? Both is used to communicate your private cloud or data center to the home location. One is direct connect, you can say it's a lease line and more expensive, more availability, higher bandwidth. On the VPN is using the shared mechanism like internet mechanism and which was controlled by IPsec, and the bandwidth limitation is there. So both are two are having same working but different scenarios. Like I have answered this question, how many subnet we can create? 100. VPN is commonly used for. Okay, that's good demonstration. Okay, two VPC have the same. Yeah, but I have already answered this. Okay, Abdullah, thank you for your answers. We can. Am I audible or I'm muted? Hello. Okay, thanks. Thank you. So, man, you can check at your end, maybe some issue. Thank you. Okay, so back to the console again. So this is the console which for Huawei we have all the services available: compute, storage, networking. You can see my screen as well. Fine. So what is our goal? Let me get back to the slide again. Our goal is to communicate, to make communication of VPC within the VPC or to and from the VPC. Definitely, some of the most of the construct we will be deploying, like we will use EIP, we will use EPC, we will use subnet, we will be doing VPC peering, but we will not going for the direct connect, which is not available for us. And uh, elastic load balancer will be covered in the next session. Same with the net gateway, but all other will be we will be covering. So now, first in the first phase, what we will do, we will create one VPC. I'm just telling the roadmap, and then we'll start. We will create one VPC with one or two subnets. Then we will make this subnet with some ECS. So this subnet can communicate with this one because they are using the same VPC and they are having you can say they are sharing the same routing table. But then we'll create another VPC2, and we'll make some subnet and try to connect. Definitely, it will not be connecting because they are isolated. Then we will create a VPC peering. So the subnet one will communicate with the subnet one of VPC2, and then we will put elastic IP to the one machine of VPC1, so they can go to the internet. So, and we'll be using all that mechanism, and we'll see how they can control. And we will be seeing like these three options will be communication of two ECCs in a single VPC, VPC peering to communicate ECS in different VPC but in the same region. And then we'll see if we have time for the VPN options. Okay, so get back to the console. Yeah, first of all, we'll create VPC because right now uh, we are on the cloud. First, we need to do one VPC. So let's create one VPC. You can follow my steps, and I'm using Bangkok. Fine. I gave it VPC1, and the IP pool is 192.168.0.0. This is very important because we need to keep remember like this is the pool we will be using further. And then available options are already mentioned over here. And if you want, you can give the subnet as a name, but right now we are not giving any name. We can use subnet VPC1. It's a subnet of one of VPC, and then we create. So VPC is created with one subnet available. Total the cider of that VPC is 192.168.0.0, but we have created only one subnet, and we can add subnet as well. For example, if you IC topology, right now you can see this VPC has only one subnet, which is 192.168.0./24. We don't have any machines right now, which is called ECS. So we can, yes, you need a separate account because that enterprise account has only for the community. You need to create on Huawei Cloud. Okay, so we have one subnet. We can add one more subnet just for the question, like VPC subnet to VPC1. We can give any name, subnet to VPC1, and we can use any CIDR block within our main CIDR. Our main CIDR was 192.168.0.00/16. Fine. And then, okay. So now we will be having two subnets available. One is subnet 1, other is subnet 2. You can see over here as well. You can see in the summary chart, but you can see VPC1 has two subnet, but routing table is one, which is being shared between both subnets. So both subnet can communicate to each other. If I open the routing table, you can see the entries. You can see the local entries. It's mean all IPs can communicate locally, and there are loopback and these are other IPs. So it's mean local communication can be done easily. So routing table shows you the real picture. Now back to the VPC. Now I'll create one more VPC. The name we can give it to VPC2, but this time I'll use the different IP pool 10.0.0/24, and let me add and the subnet 1 dash VPC2 and create. Now we have two VPCs. One has two subnet, other one has only single subnet. You can see over here. Now VPC1, VPC2 both are created, both are showing you the exact detail. Now what we will do, we would be trying to communicating between the VPCs and to inter and intra VPC both. Fine. Till now, any have question you can ask. Okay, now we can go to the Elastic Cloud Server. This is although we have already covered this part in the first session, but we are just creating just to check to show you the communication because both are created, but there is no resource available in both VPCs. Let me show you. For example, if you see, both VPC is empty. There is no servers right now or no resources. They are using any IPs. Fine. So we will go to the Elastic Cloud Server, which is nothing but a VM, and we'll create by. So I'll go through that process very fast because we already know this process. If still somebody wants to know how ECS is being created, they can follow our post on our forum. Fine. So then paper use, random, general purpose, free resource. I can use CentOS 7.6. You can take any version. Now the important part, network part. Which network I want to use, which VPC I want to. So I'm creating in the VPC1. So my VPC1 has two subnet. I can ask to use subnet 1, whatever you like. I use subnet 1. Right now we are not controlling, we are providing default availability. So anyone can communicate to and from the cloud. Right now, I don't need elastic IP, so I put not required. And then quantity should be one. I need only one in one VPC subnet. So now he's asking for password, and so just for easy, I would name it ECS1 in subnet 1 dash VPC1. So I can get to know it's a best practice to give a good naming convention. You can have a password at least 8 character long with alphanumeric or something, and then I put create. Now he's showing me the last path. Just check all the parameter you have selected. I have said agree and then submit. So meanwhile, one ECS is created in one VPC with using first subnet and in the VPC1. Now I'll do the same process, but in different subnet of the same VPC. So let's little faster. Public CentOS. Now, uh, closely focus on the VPC. I'm selecting VPC1, but this time I'm not using subnet 1, I'm using subnet 2. So every option can be used easily. I don't need internet access right now. And then click on the configure advanced setup. And the same, I can use ECS2 in subnet 2 in VPC1. Name could be anyone, but better to have a proper name just to maintain. Okay. And then confirm, and then okay. So I have two ECS machines. They are being made, and both are in different subnet of a same VPC. Now what I will do, I'll try to communicate from one ECS to other ECS, and you can tell me will it be able to communicate or not. Meanwhile, this VPC is being created. We can open this one. We can create. Okay, so we can click on the remote login. So Asadullah saying no. So let's try. So the username is root always. The password I know. So now I am into the ECS1, subnet 1, VPC1. This is one more good example for good use case for giving the exact. Now I can ping the second one. Second one is IP is 192.168.1.14. Anyone else can predict the output? Voila, we can ping because they are sharing the same VPC. The subnets are different, but they are having the same VPC, same routing table as I shown you. The local routes are available. So the same thing I can check on the other ECS. So the first demonstration is clear to you. Now what we will do, we will make another ECS. Okay, but this time what we will do mm, over here, CentOS. You can take any OS which you like. Okay, we can do one more thing. Uh, we can right now we can do we have two ECS, two in different subnets. So I can delete one and shift it to the other mode. I can change as well. Manage network you can change, but it's better to delete and then create in a different subnet and VPC for better understanding. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll make one more ECS. Yes, NACL can be controlled. Yes, NACL network access list. It's always there for controlling the mechanism to flow inflow and outflow. But it is for the network layer. But if you want to do the controlling on the you can say subnet level, then security group is your tool to use. So again, same process, but okay. Now concentrate on the network part. Right now, we were using VPC1. Now I'm creating another ECS in a VPC2, and definitely VPC2 has only one subnet, so there is no option to display. And again, I don't need elastic IP, and I'll go to the next part. Same, I can give, this is also ECS1, but with the same subnet 1, but in the VPC2. So I can give the password and then confirm. You can see all the parameters. It's always good to have a review. Okay, now my question is that these two ECS are created. Can I ping this from this ECS1 to this ECS1 of VPC2? Let me see, the IP is available. It will be available anytime soon. Okay. Do we need separate account? Yes, I have given the answer. Okay, Kashif Saab has said no. Means they will not be communicating. Okay, then anyone else want to participate in? Like we have already logged into this machine. Let's go to the again clear. Then again ping. Ping is used to just to check the response available or not. 10.0.0.76. Okay, you want to see the routing table first? Okay, I'll show you the routing table. No issue. Right now it's not pinging, and Mihai Dinu said he wants to see the routing table. Which one? VPC1 or VPC2? Let's see, go to the VPC1. This is the routing table available. You know that. This is routing table 1. Ping success for me. If you have it is successful for you, you must have made ECS in the same VPC. Please cross check the VPCs, which because this is the main requirement of VPC. VPC is to make the network isolation. If you are able to ping, it's been you already have some routes or some other mechanism. Now, my question again: if we want to communicate of these EPCs as well, although they are a part of different VPCs, but what if I want to communicate for me? Cannot ping. Yes, you're right, Faisal. They cannot ping. But if I want to make them communication, for example, I have 10 ECS in one. Very right, sir. You are the champion, sir. You are right. The VPC peering is our the guy, because now we will be making a peering between VPC1 and VPC2. Right now, VPC1 is isolated. VPC2 is isolated. They are not able to communicate each other. And if we make a peer, then they can easily share the routes according to our configuration. So let's move to that part. So go back to the VPC. Now both VPCs are available. Both VPC are doing their job rightly on their own demarcation, but now we need to go to the VPC peering. This is our second part. Okay, name again. You can give anyone name, any name. I said VPC1, VPC2. Just for, it's always good to have the good naming convention. You can follow according to your, yes, not working because no problem. Yes, you are right. Okay, VPC1 is our local VPC, and VPC2 is our the peer VPC, and both are in my account. It could be on different account, but the IPs are given, CIDRs are here. So you can write description, whatever testing, whatever you want to. So, but this VPC doesn't have the routes right now. So he's asking, do you need to add routes now or later? I said, okay, go ahead and give the routing information. Right now, let's move to the switch table, route table, sorry. Right now, we have local routes of this VPC, and definitely the same routes available on the VPC2 as well. So I want to add one route. What that means, right now, mm, this is the subnet 1 of VPC1, and 10.0.0 is the subnet of VPC2. So I'll put a route for 10.0.0. I can put of 16 for whole if I want to give for only for the subnet, so I can give this. But for better for testing, we can do for whole /16. Up now is asking what should be the next hop type. So it's not a server, it's not a NAT gateway, it's our peering. Whenever we click on this, it will show you all that available option. Right now we only have only one peering. Then it's showing you the VPC1 peering which we have just created. And again, description, you can add anyone. So we have added route from our VPC1 to VPC2. It's mean the communication can be possible from our VPC1 to VPC2, or you can say we have availability of information of going to VPC2 routes, but we don't have availability on VPC2. So let's go to the routing table of VPC2. Sorry. So again, the same route. What is the route? Anyone can help me. What route I should route over here? If anyone can help me, shall I write 23, 24, or 27? What should I write over here? Anyone can help me. 24. Okay, fine. I can use 24 because for the subnet one. But maybe my ECS will be on subnet 2. So for testing, we can use 16 because this is a cider of our whole VPC1. And again, we can use VPC peering. And again, we have only one VPC peer available. So he shows the next one. Now VPC peering is there. Routes availability on VPC1, route availability on VPC2 is there. Now, can someone tell me that will it be pinging or not? But before going to that console, I'll show you one thing. The IPs of both, because somebody has write 16, somebody has written 7, so 727. So the IP is 10.0.76 and the IP is 192.168.0.163. Now, my question is, will it be pinging or not? Because previously it was unable to ping. What is the condition right now? Yes, please. Okay, it will ping. Okay, let's see. Oh, yes, you're right. Up now, what's the reason? Because we have two different VPCs. They were not able to ping previously, but as if we have now VPC peer and we are able to put our routing on a forward and reverse side. So now both can ping. Now ping is there. Now what I'll do, I'll disturb the peering. How I can disturb? Maybe I can delete it. I can modify with some fake IPs, or maybe I can delete the routes. So the pinging can be disturbed. Up now, the another subsidiary question is that right now we have defined full bunch of subnet into the routing table for the both VPCs, so all subnets can communicate. But what we need to do, that some ECS will communicate and some will not. For example, this is VPC of my one office and this is a VPC of second office, but I want only the upper management can communicate, but not about the lower management. You can say to enforce some security. How then that could be done? So this could be done using different mechanism. For example, if you need to apply security on subnet level, then we'll using uh, subnet gateway, so security gateway SG. And if we need to apply some ACL for whole network, then NACL is the guy to use. And there are some other. Let me go to the VPC. And then go to the access control, because they are the features for the controlling your access. Up now you can see right now we were using the default security group. You can see the name is default. There are 6 rules available. 2 instances are associated. It's been 2 machines are being uh, bounded with this SG security group. And if we see the rules, you can see they are default rules. For example, TCP can be allowed. TCP22 means SSH for the machines can be communicate, because this is a Linux machine. If it were via Windows machine, then 3389, that is the RDP port, and which is shown over here. Yes, Windows default. And definitely right now we are using default communication, so it's mean all communication is available. What if I delete this, uh, you can say, entry, or you can say, okay, let me delete this. So do you think still I can able to ping or not? This is a gift answer. Okay, somebody said yes. So whoever said yes, can will you elaborate how do you think it will keep on continue pinging? Because I have deleted the rule for IPv6. It's not for the IPv4. Still I can ping. But if I delete this, sorry, this one, then my ping would be breaking. That's you are right, Minai. That's you are right. So because I have deleted the IPv6, and right now I'm not using IPv6 on my any of machine. So let's delete this one, and definitely they are showing you the security warning. You will not be able to something like this. Now you can see the ping has stopped. It's not uh, giving any more responses. So let me add this, or you can add using some common pools. There's one option available. There are so many plenty of options available just for your ease. So you can say ICMP all. Anyone can ping. ICMP is a protocol for pinging, and then this is for FTP. This is for SSH, and then these two for the websites or HTTP, and then they have a Windows remote servers. So again, my question is that there are 2 set of rules available: inbound and outbound. What are these? Right now, we just play with the inbound. We did not play with the outbound. Why? What is the reason behind this? Meanwhile, I'll see if there is any question for me. If there's any question, if I have missed any question. Hmm. Okay, there's one more question. How many security groups can we have? Security rules, I know that like 5,000 rules can be added, and you can see all that information in the quotas. Yes, this is my quota. Definitely, this is the testing account. The quota is minimum, but when you are using for enterprise businesses, so quota could be increased, and even you can increase quota by requesting over there. VPC. You can see the availability. For example, if I go to the VPC, where it is VPC, yeah. Right now, I have quota of 5, and I'm using 2. And security group rule, I have access of 5,000, but I'm using 8 right now. Subnet, I can make 100, but 3 are being used. VPC peering, I can make 50 VPC peering. It's been I can communicate with 50 different VPCs, but right now I'm using only 1. So this is one good information. Okay, and one other thing is usage. My resources, you can see which resource are being used right now. You can see all the information over here. Right now I'm using all these resources. Up 11 resources are currently I'm using: VPCs, security gateways, subnets, and everything, routing table. All these are mentioned. You can see over here. Okay, now back to the question. Inbound to receive, Jitendra, very good. Outbound to send. Right now, yes, this is a good justification. But if I could add one more thing, normally in companies, or it's a best practice to put rules on the inbound, because we don't know what is coming from the outside, but what is going from my end, it is known. And it's, you can say, it's our user. I know what communication can be done, but from the internet or from the outside, well, we don't know. So if you take example of your network or your home, you mostly put a check on the entrance, not for the exit. Definitely there are, but mostly your focus in companies or in physical areas, you put machines and security cameras for the entrance part. Exit part, you just have one security camera and a guard. That is enough for you. But you can control for the both side, no issue. But this was good input from your side. So again, any question? Okay. So verify, we have verified that two ECS in a VPC can communicate by default because they are using the same routing table. They are local. They are using the same mechanism. And we can we also verify somehow security group, how to control traffic. And then this is one job we can do right now. This is the last job we can do right now. This is my machine, and I want to access the internet. Let's see if I can ping to 8.8, which is a Google DNS. If I will I able to ping that internet or not? No, you're right. Right now, I'm not able to ping the internet. Why? Because there is no internet gateway available to me, or no accessibility to internet, and I have not used any public IP. So can I do this? Yes, I can do it. This is VPC1 subnet 1. So yeah, what I can do, I can go to this ECS and then go to the elastic IPs. Right now, I don't have any IP to bind. So, and then buy an elastic IP, because right now I don't have any elastic IP available to me. Okay. So again, if I want to purchase for monthly or yearly or per use, then if I use for the bandwidth, I can use minimum bandwidth. I can take the name, and then I said uh, I buy one IP available for me. Then submit. So right now I have available one public IP. So I can bind this IP from to my machine. So which machine I want to use? For example, this one. Which NIC card? It has only one NIC card available. So now if I see, it start pinging. Previously it was not able to access the internet because it doesn't have any availability to the internet or elastic IP. दोबारा. ठीक है, so they can easily able to ping because now availability is there. Now elastic IP is always something to the which affect on the cost, so you can always unbind if it is not in use. So this is one more process we can use. We can unbind it, and whenever you want to use it, you can use it. Okay, one good question: monitoring tool for Huawei. Every resource has different type of availability for its monitoring. For example, if I go to the elastic, uh, cloud server, which is you can say the machine. If I click on it, the basic monitoring is being provided over here. You can see all the summary available is over here. And what about disk? What about NIC? What about the security gateway? If there is any elastic IP, and what about the monitoring? You can see the live graphs are always there. Server outbound traffic, CPU usage, everything is over there. Either it's for the 1 day, 3 days, or for 7 days, everything is available there. And you can tag as well. So can we change security? Yes, you can. We can change the security grip on runtime. Even we did that thing. We removed the uh, main public IP, so the communication was broken. And then we have added the common ports, and they started communicating. And then every mostly operations can be done on the runtime until unless you need to revise that operations. Okay, that needs to be checked, Jekindra. I hope there is an option available for it for downloading, because mostly the data is available. You can do it. Okay, and then we also have seen about Elastic IP, and then definitely there is Elastic IP metric. You can see metrics available, how the communication is being done. So all the operations, all the monitoring is there. You can use it. You can use there are few best practices for the cloud. Whenever resources are required, you just create it, and if it is not in use, just delete it. Not over. It will avoid overcharging. And every resource has a proper naming and tagging. It will help you in operations and also help in managing that resource. So like for example, right now I can shut down the machine, and now this ECS can be closed. And same for the VPC pairing. You can delete that VPC pairing. This is the one very important part. The resources which are not being used should be deleted right away. In VPC, same for the VPC, but VPC will not be deleted. Why? Because it has subnets. So first I need to delete the subnet, and then definitely it will be easy for me. So we can do this obsession later. Now come back to the slides again. And also I would like to add request Miss Alina if she want to add something. Meanwhile, you are always open to add some questions, so I can try to answer your questions and share your feedback as well. Yes,
Thank
Miss
you,
Alina, if
Bashir.
you want to add something.
I just want to thank everyone for joining this webinar today. I just want to let you all know, in case this is the first time you're attending one of our webinars, that the host of this webinars is the Huawei Enterprise Support Community, which is the official technical community for all Huawei enterprise products, solutions, and certifications. We have already over 236,000 members. Most of our community members are Huawei experts, engineers, partners, customers, and even students who are interested in learning more about Huawei Enterprise certifications. We have an extensive knowledge base that you can learn from. We have technical collections, technical posts, and also monthly webinars like this one that you can learn from. We have a public recognition and reward system for our most active members, including the Elite Users Program, which I mentioned at the beginning, and that Bashir is also a member of. HiCoins, which are the internal currency of this community, and different rewards in our online shop, which include Amazon gift cards, Huawei exam vouchers, and so on. We also have monthly activities, and lately we began having even more technical webinars. This is the second of this month, and we will have one more this month actually. In case you don't have an account in this community yet, I invite you all to register now and become a member to enjoy all the benefits our community brings to our users. Also, as I said in the beginning, we have prepared some activities for today. One of them is basically very easy. All you need to do is send me your username or your nickname, or maybe even both, in the community. You can send me a private message. So when you select two in the chat box, you can just send the message to me. So you can just write your nickname or username in the community, and we will choose 5 winners from those of you who are attending today's live session. So this mechanism is really, really easy. You just need to send me the username, nickname, and after that, I will present you the second activity we have. I started getting some messages in private. You can continue sending your nicknames in private. The second activity, for those of you who've attended before, we will present 3 questions at the end of this live webinar. And you can go and answer the 3 questions in the community. I will share the link again, just to make sure that you know where you should go to answer the 3 questions. I will update this post at the end of the live presentation to add the 3 questions there as well. Basically, all you need to do is go to the comment section of this post and leave a comment with the 3 answers. So you can just write question 1 answer, question 2 answer, question 3 answer. Okay, so you can still send me your nicknames, usernames here in the chat box. You can also go after the live session to the community and reply the 3 questions. Before we end today's session, which I also think was great, and I hope that you guys will also be able to attend the third session in this series, because Bashir is preparing a third one. I would also like to just quickly talk about the Elite Users Program. This is basically a program which was created for the most active members of this community. We have 5 different roles of Elite users. One of them is being a webinar host, like Bashir is today. He is also an MVE, which means most valued engineer. Since he has multiple Elite users roles, I would just like to I would like you to share a bit about your experience as an Elite user. Maybe more people will be interested in joining this program. Just a quick information: this program is available for external users. So, for example, Huawei engineers or Huawei employees cannot join the MV program. But if you are an expert, if you are interested in sharing your experience, your knowledge with others, we have some exclusive benefits for our Elite members. And if you want to apply, I will share the link with you where you can find all the 5 roles of Elite users. And if you think that one of them is suitable for you, you can also apply and become one of our Elite users. Okay, the stage is yours. So just if you want to say
Thank you.
quickly something about this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Alina. The elite user is one of the best, you can say, the activity which we are having, because learning and sharing, if both are distant, they are not combined together, that's not the benefit. This is what I feel always. So either you are an MV or an author or a webinar host or an HCI expert or an external moderator. All these 5 fields are for helping the people. If you are an author, you write some good content for people to write and learn. If you are a webinar host, you are sharing your knowledge, your expertise in form of training on webinar. And if you are an HCI, that means you are an expert and you are sharing your knowledge and the queries. An external moderator is someone who always help the users to communicate, to make a bridge between the admins and the users, help to find the solutions. And the MV are the one who always write some articles and also shares the answers of your queries. So we have multiple MVs available over here and a bunch of authors and some authors and webinar host. We have plenty of HCI experts in different field, routing and switching, datacom, cloud computing. We have some of them available in our participant list today. So I would like to thank you to all of you, especially to these HCI experts. And then we are have an army of external moderators who are always serving very well to the community. So either if you want to become an MV, that is most valued engineer, or an author if you have some guts to write some good articles, or you want to present a webinar, believe me, it's always very I'm always receiving a very positive, or you can say encouraging remarks from the people, either from the community or an outside from community. When I say I'm an MV, an author, and webinar host in the community, and if you share the knowledge, then if you teach something, you learn twice. This is what I can say in one line. Whatever comes in your mind, whatever you know, you can share it with three people, then these three people can share with three each. So the you can say the output or the result is replicated multiple times. So this is what I can see and what I can say. Again, I would like to thank you for your participation. That was great for me again.
Thank you so much for your
Yes, Ms.
words.
Alina.
Yes, so I think this is a very valuable program, especially since we have some dedicated experts in this program. I also want to thank all of you for being part of our Elite Users program. This would not be possible without you. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your involvement. Thank you for being so helpful towards other members of this community. Um, Thank you for attending today's webinar as well. And I really hope that more members will join this program, because this community is about sharing your experience, sharing your knowledge, and also improving yourself constantly. And also you get rewarded for your participation, which I think makes it even more worth it. But the most important part is the learning part and the sharing part, and just proving that this community consists of amazing experts from all around the world. And this community, I think, brings us all together no matter where we are from. So I just want to thank you again. Does anyone still have some questions about this?
Acha, Alina,
Yes.
we have a question as well. Na? We need to have three questions.
Yes,
We
I
need
was
to
just
add three
wondering
questions.
if we still have questions left for this session. I think that
Hmm.
you can go to the webinar post and write your questions there in case you still have some questions left.
Mm-hmm.
Because now it's a bit late.
Mm-hmm.
So we can present the three questions,
Do
and
we need to share the questions, or it
I,
will be?
I I updated the post already. The
Oh,
replies are
that's great.
hidden,
That's great.
so we can just
That's great.
present them quickly now, and then I invite you all to go to the forum post and answer these questions there. So thank you all for
Okay,
your participation.
just need to add one question because someone has asked the question. So after this question, I'll try to end. Okay, the question was why EIP is charged, because definitely it's a resource and public IP is always costly. So there are always a good tricks whenever it is not in use, it's not bounded. You can unbind it and you can delete if you are not in mood to further use it. And definitely the public IPs are the one which we need to take from the RNR, regional internet resources, like AppNIC and other resources according to your area and your demarcation. So these EIPs, definitely it's something comes with a cost. So that is again a very good question. And thank you again for your input or your participation. Thank you everyone. You can ask any question anytime in the form. So we'll try to answer you as soon as possible. Thank you again. Thank you. So nice of you, everyone. Thank you, Alina, for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you so much. Do you think we can also quickly go through the 3 questions before we end?
Sure, we can
Just show them, and then everyone can go to the post and
Sure.
answer.
So I'll just read out so everyone can know the answer.
Yeah.
Question 1 is Huawei Cloud's regions are expanding. You know that new region is launching in Australia. It's true or false? It's a simple question. Question number 2 is required a technology that is required for making two VPs reachable in the same region. We have gone through a wonderful discussion on that, so you know the answers. And the last question is basically you need to choose two. What are the famous technologies used for cloud networking? There are so many. That's why I write choose two. You can choose two out of these four. Either it is virtual private network, either cloud internet, it's a VPC, or it's a direct cloud or direct connect or cloud connect. So already you know all these things in your webinar post. So you can I hope you will answer correctly and win some good rewards. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you, and I hope that you will join the third session in this Huawei Cloud series as well. We will plan it soon, and we will announce it in the forum, so please stay tuned for more valuable sessions. Thank you all for attending today's session. I hope you have a great day ahead or a great evening, and see you next time. Have a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bashir. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
But you can see all the questions in the post. Definitely,
Yes.
you will get all 3 questions available there.
Yes.
So thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye bye.